Hello, I'm Arkatsuke, and I've been graciously invited by Prince of Queens to do a guest video, to which I obviously accepted, with fanboy squee, I might add. I hope you enjoy, and if you do, please like and subscribe to both me and Prince of Queens here on YouTube, and follow us both on Twitter. Thank you again. Let's get started. Hello, I'm Arkatsuke, and for this video, I'm not going to be responding to a specific article, event, or video, but rather reflecting on an idea that has been coalescing around me for a while now, on why the term gay belongs to men. It's possible you might think I'm being pedantic, exclusionary, or just plain stupid, and I'm willing to take that risk, but I invite you to hear me out and walk with me for a few minutes while I explain myself. Google defines the word gay as a homosexual person, especially a man. That especially is important. For younger viewers, or people who simply haven't been around many homosexuals, this may seem like a moot point, saying that, for instance, lesbians aren't gay. Of course, right? While it wasn't always entirely unusual to hear some homosexual women identify as gay, that is more the exception than the rule, as the term lesbian has pretty much always in my lifetime been the dominant and preferred term for homosexual women. There are many reasons for this, some historical, most political, i.e. feminists turning GLBT into LGBT, etc. Hence why you tend to hear more about gay and lesbians, and not so much about gay men and women. The history of specific terms used to differentiate homosexuals by gender isn't really what I want to focus on, but rather that different labels are generally along gender lines. I'll add more to that later. What I say now is that I don't identify or affiliate with LGBT anymore. I've talked before about how the gay community is no longer truly gay, in that it has become an alphabet soup of various group identities that basically boil down to not straight, but that doesn't sound nearly as noble or important, and intersectionality demands that every group be clearly identified and differentiated so that they may be weighed and judged according to who is currently higher or lower on the oppression totem pole.
Don't say that, it's totally about equality and centering different historically marginalized groups. Hashtag stronger together. Hashtag problematic. Hashtag.
Yeah, that. Anyway, here's the thing. I don't care anymore. And honestly, I probably shouldn't have ever cared. I'm going to bring in a term that I have talked about before in live streams that I semi-coined, GGTOW, or gays going their own way. This obviously takes inspiration from MGTOW, i.e. men going their own way. The reason that either of these movements exist, and make no mistake, just because there wasn't always a name for it, doesn't mean GGTOWs themselves are anything new, stem from certain men realizing that they had become embroiled in toxic relationships with outgroups that, in many ways and instances, do not have their best interests at heart. For MGTOWs, that relationship is between heterosexual men and women, stemming largely from legally enshrined inequalities in family court and broad-reaching societal issues. For GGTOWs, it stems from routine hostility from feminists and lesbians, the invasion of gay male spaces by women and transsexuals, as well as the broader issue of transsexual political causes overwhelming gay political interests. Now, what do I mean by that last bit? Simply put, trans issues are complicated and unpopular, and I'm sorry to say, have nothing to do with gay men.
Oh my god, cats, you're being so transphobic and tribal. You're going to break the rainbow.
Silence, our cat's non-binary. This is my YouTube channel. Get your own. I'm sorry you had to see that. I promise you it's a bit and not a sign of some sort of emerging mental illness. No. It's not transphobic to say that one unrelated group's issues aren't a major concern for another. And yes, gay men are a distinct group that don't have much in common with trans people, other than certain common political foes. Many trans people go out of their way to say that they are not gay, and that is rooted in a rejection of biological sex/gender, social constructs, etc. Now, if you want to spend your spare time trying to rationalize gender theory, knock yourself out. But that won't change the fact that it has nothing to do with the vast majority of gays. Most people, in general, do not have gender dysphoria, and if you think being trans is some sort of quasi-spiritual thing that is based purely on your feelings, then you should go back to your safe space, because I will not tolerate your idiocy. Gay issues are anchored in the real world, not in grammatical and genital existentialism. We need to combat the spread of HIV and STIs. We need to make sure that when we call the fire department, they come, not whether or not we feel comfortable with our children playing with gender-specific toys and whether or not the term freshman is inclusive enough. These issues aren't new. Remember the hashtag drop the T? The idea that trans people have their own, very real, but entirely separate issues that don't have much of anything to do with gay people? I do. And you can see it illustrated on a national level by the number of anti-LGBT bills cropping up around the country, in that they aren't anti-gay usually, but anti-trans, i.e. bathroom bills. Does that mean I don't care about transgender people, or that these aren't problems? No, but they are trans problems, not gay problems. They affect a very small number of people in the population, and frankly are not a major concern for most people. You can call me all the phobic isms you want, say I'm a heartless bastard, but that doesn't change reality. Trans people are a specific, separate people with their own distinctive issues, hence why they are trans and not gay. In the same way, lesbians saw fit to fracture the gay community by establishing and defining themselves as lesbians, which is exclusively female homosexual. They effectively vacated the word gay, leaving it just for gay men, and I'm fine with that. It was pretty much always our word anyway. And if lesbians think that they can have both words, then they are effectively saying that they matter more than men, because do you think they would allow men to identify as lesbians? TERFs, anyone? Now for some clarifications. Yes, I am saying that lesbians, bisexuals, transsexuals, and the rest of the soup are not gay, and not included in GigTow by definition. It wouldn't make any sense for a person to say that they were a bisexual lesbian or a cisgendered transsexual. And if you think that it does, then you have gone far off the deep end and probably require psychotropic medication. Sorry, not sorry. No. I am not saying that I advocate prejudice against these people, nor that their issues aren't valid or in need of attention or action. Am I advocating gay tribalism? Maybe. Is that a bad thing? In my opinion, no. Tribes form around groups of individuals with enough commonalities to warrant forging a mostly permanent shared identity based on mutual interests and goals. And as these tribes grow, sometimes they splinter into smaller, more specific interests. Case in point, LGBT. The rainbow has grown too large, and frankly no longer can accommodate every member group without hierarchy to distribute limited resources, whether political, cultural, or financial. Groups like the Human Rights Campaign may have begun as gay rights organizations, but they have morphed into the broader and more profitable LGBT spectrum, which is probably why the group denounced the Drop the T movement. Don't scare away those donors. Now that marriage equality is the law of the land, the soup has grown restless and wishes to displace gays, especially the men, because they are no longer oppressed enough. To that, I say, you do you, but I'm done with it. I am a gay man, and I formally renounce LBTQ+, and reclaim my G for myself and my gay brothers, my fellow GigTows. You may agree with me, reject, or denounce me, but you cannot compel me to believe that the soup values me or my brothers. We have our own problems, our own interests, and frankly, our own culture. And you cannot bully your way into it. We don't care about your absurd cultural Marxist, gender deconstructionist opinions anymore. And if I want to have sex with a burly biological male with classic masculine features and matching equipment, that's on me. And you get no say in how I do that or feel about it, no more than I get to tell a woman about her abortion. You do you, and we'll do us. On a final note, I want to add that this doesn't have to be a bad thing. Sometimes groups become too large to effectively take care of every member, and sometimes they have to split up in order to function better, in the same way that children must eventually leave their parents in order to effectively live their own lives. I think that gay men are better off tending to their own affairs, and honestly, I think the other letters would be better off if they, too, gave up the idea that we are just one big happy family with a few little quirks here and there, because at the end of the day, we aren't. And it's more than a few quirks. Sometimes people come together for a common cause, but afterwards find they didn't have enough in common to stay together, or that they should never have been together in the first place. Think Yugoslavia or Iraq, nations that were forcibly combined of disparate and at odds groups, then held together by brutal authoritarians that, after their deaths, were too different to remain cohesive and fell apart. But that's me. Either way, I, and I suspect a growing number of other gay men, will be just fine on our own. This has been Our Cat's Gay. Like, subscribe, love it, hate it, you already watched it, you can't unwatch it. Thank you for watching.